Well, it feels good to be back. It's been a year since I've done any videoing. It took a whole year off after 10 years of doing videography for Cervicide. And I realized last year in my absence that I felt naked without the camera. I shot my biggest buck to date with my bow last year, and I ended up killing one of my biggest bucks with the rifle. So this season, my dad and I went out to Missouri, and I was like, I'm taking the camera, I'm gonna self-film, and I'm really looking forward to showing you some of the success that we had this year.
It's November the 5th, and we're out here in Missouri. I'm on a little hunting club. It's just farm fields and cow pastures that I'm hunting. I've seen at least 7 different bucks cruising, chasing, making scrapes, and I'm hoping that this is going to continue. So, one buck, he was a nice 10 point. He was real close, man. He was bedded down. And another buck stepped out into the woods, and he stood up and he wanted to go kick his butt, and that deer scooted out. And I saw he had little crab claws, man. He was close to a shooter. I'm just looking for something a little bit bigger. It's only day number 1. I'm here for a week and a half. A week of archery and 3 days of guns. So hopefully my luck don't run out, because it's been one heck of a morning, man. You're watching Cervicide. So this morning was pretty crappy. I ran into town, got something to eat. We're gonna be going up over the hill here, near where I was at this morning. I just didn't like the setup. It was, the only deer I saw was on the neighbor's property, and that's where all the thick stuff is. So I'm gonna get down in this draw where it's a low spot, a different stand that's there. Hasn't been hunted as much too. I have a feeling there's just been too much activity in that stand I was in. I don't know. I could be overthinking. I'm sure I'm overthinking it, but if we look down this way, I shot my 10 point last year. My dad just had 2 big buck chasing doe. So stuff's happening. I'm gonna be on the northwest corner of the property. My dad's gonna be sitting in the food plot over here. Small food plot, we call it the food plot. I'm all set up. Earlier I was up in this corner, and the wind's blowing directly across. This is a good transition staging area. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not expecting a whole lot of activity till it gets closer to the dark, but if we see something that's gonna happen fast, I can't see far, and it's a really good transition. All we can do is wait. Side of me. He's across the river, which is the property line. He was a big son of a gun. I mean, tall. I tried grunting, snort, wheezing at him. I don't think he's gonna come over. It's November 7th. It's my brother's birthday. Great day to be in the woods. My favorite. And that was a freaking hammer. Oh my God. I hope he comes over here. It's a pretty good sized river, but there's no reason he won't cross it. Yeah, I grunted and snort wheezed. I know he could hear it. I can hear him walking across the brush. Oh, man. Let's see what happens. It's thick. If it happens, it's gonna be fast. It's gonna be really fast.
So after a couple days of seeing really amazing deer activity, I hadn't seen a deer that I wanted to kill except for a buck that really had me perplexed. You know, what he was. I grunted, snort, wheezed at him, and in the back door he started coming downwind of me, while right in front of me a big 8-point stepped out that I just wasn't looking to put an arrow in him. He was a nice buck, but when he started stomping the ground, that big white horn buck, he never came in.
So I came in this morning and I bumped into something. There's a buck cheesing and grunting, but a doe. She called me. She was blowing at me. That's my assumption. It was dark. The buck grunted after she started stomping. He was oblivious. It's a deep grunt. Anyway, we're in the stand. It's gonna get really warm today. We'll see what happens.
So now we're on day 4 of the hunt, and I've seen really great activity, and I was at a different farm. This particular farm was the exact farm I shot my biggest buck to date, and we knew that there was some big whitetail in that area. So right when I least expected it, I was playing with my phone. You know, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Things were slowing down after a pretty eventful morning. Right under my stand, I hear a twig snap. So almost in a panic, I just slowly turned my head to see a buck, and I saw a really nice right side of his rack. And instantly I reach over and I flip my camera open and hit the record button. And little to my knowledge, I did that so fast that I never triggered record. The camera wasn't on, and I was unable to capture what was about to unfold. So this deer was right under my stand, and he smelled something. I had just literally opened up a bag of peanuts. I was munching on them. I decided I was going to take a leak off the stand because mentally I was like, I'm going to sit here for another hour or two and I'm going to go back home. And this particular buck was the only deer in several sits and talking to other guys that have sat that stand that came directly down the center of the draw right under my stand. So I saw that the deer's rack, I saw he was wide, I saw he had a bunch of points. And I grabbed my bow. I said, this is a shooter. And he ended up going behind my tree about 20 yards or so, got broadside. So I spun around and had to crouch down to get under some cover, drew back, and I shot. And that buck, he piled up 50 yards up on top of the draw. But to my dismay, I hadn't hit the record button, and I didn't get to share with you the shot and that deer sneaking in on me.
I never hit record. Oh my God. I never hit record. I never hit record. This deer, this freaking deer came right under me. I was munching on some freaking nuts. He was so close, he heard that. He heard it. He stopped. And luckily I was on the back side of the tree. I thought I had my camera turned on. So he turned, I drew back, and I just freaking dumped him. All right. Here he is. You know, I was sitting there and munching on some nuts. I just took a leak off the stand, and I was debating if I wanted to do that or not. And out of nowhere, this deer shows up right under my stand, and I had to make a decision, shoot or not. So I saw some good character, and he started backpedaling. I thought I flipped the camera on, and I did, but I never hit record. And I just went into kill mode. I just wanted to take a good shot. Took a good shot. He ran 70 yards. He piled up at the top of this draw I was hunting, and I couldn't be happier. Passed a lot of deer up. This is day number 4 in Missouri. It's real warm. You know, I was already thinking about getting out of the stand, and like that's how fast that it can happen, where you get the opportunity at a deer. So you just gotta, you know, stay in the game, keep your head in it, and it can happen quick. So we got her done. Couldn't be happier.
So the next day, I had the opportunity to sleep in. I was tagged out, and I get a phone call in the morning. It was about 8:30 o'clock in the morning, and so I answered the phone. I was like, okay, what are you calling me for, Dad? Like, you should be in the stand. What'd you shoot? So I'm waiting for my dad to come down. He shot a buck. I drove down to the bean field, and he said it piled up on the other side of this creek here, so we're gonna see how tricky it is to get this out. But this actual spot right here is where I was hunting the other day, and I had a real nice buck across the creek. The tree stands right in this wood pile right here and here. And across the creek, I had a real nice buck that I could barely get on camera, and I started grunting and snort wheezing. Well, that deer crossed the creek, came up behind my stand, upwind of me. Everything was perfect when this big 8-point stepped out, and he had my number. I didn't grab my bow because it just wasn't, I knew that the other one was a big deer. And I think my dad shot that big 8-point. You know, in hindsight, watching the video, I don't know how big the deer was. You know, I thought he was a big 5x5 stacked tines, but I didn't get binoculars on it. And the video camera made him look smaller. So, you know, it's possible this 8-point was the alpha buck. So anyway, he's gonna be coming down here in a minute, and we're gonna get our hands on this deer. I can't wait.
So deer came down from the woods up there, came about halfway through the field, got to about midpoint, and kind of was heading my way, but then he turned and started going up the creek. He cut in the woods, and I lost track of him because of the trees. Figured what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to grunt him in, grunt it a couple times, waited about 4 or 5 minutes, nothing. So I thought, well, if he can still hear me, I got the rattling antlers out, did a whole sequence, gave one grunt with a big buck growl. I didn't snort wheeze at that time. So all I did was give a couple, or just one grunt after the rattling. So I'm sitting there, and I put my antlers in my bag, and I look over and I see this brown coming through the woods. So quick up my bow. I said he was almost at a perfect spot. He went right up along the creek. I got on him. I looked at his horns. Yep, he's the one. And released. He was about 25. I put him between 20 and 30 yards. He went across the creek and crashed just on the other side. He didn't go no 30, 40 yards, and he was done.
So the track job was about as easy as it comes. We got to the stand. He showed me where the deer stood, and I looked across the creek right inside the waterway, and I was like, well, it looks like your deer right there. My dad says, yeah, I think that's, I said, Dad, that's your deer laying there. So of course we had to walk across the creek and recover the deer, no problem.
Well, there he is. He broke something off there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This guy's a 9. He's a little younger than I might have thought.
Just like that, we were both tagged out, and the beautiful thing was we had a couple days until rifle opened up, and there was more guys that were coming to camp. And you know, the really exciting part about that club I'm a part of in Missouri is the rifle season. You know, 2 years ago, our very first year going out there as members, it was so cool to come out to the Midwest and experience what I grew up, that traditional rifle season, hanging out with guys at camp, and just having that community and camaraderie and a lot of fun. So stay tuned for the next episode where we dive into the rifle season, and I can assure you that there's some video footage of some deer dropping, and we shot some really good bucks. Thanks for watching.